When Janelle Brown dropped those two words during her friend gathering in Flagstaff, she accidentally revealed one of the most chilling truths about Kody and Robin's relationship. They're equally yoked, she said, and anyone who understands the psychology of manipulation just got hit with a bombshell that explains everything we've witnessed for years. Most people heard that phrase and thought it meant they're compatible, that they share the same values, but Janelle wasn't talking about some sweet marital harmony. She was exposing the fact that Robin and Kody are psychological twins, feeding off each other's worst traits in ways that would make your skin crawl. When she said they're equally yoked, she meant they're both playing the same sick games, using the same twisted tactics, and enabling each other's manipulation of everyone around them. The term equally yoked comes from biblical teachings about surrounding yourself with people who share your moral compass, but here's where it gets disturbing. Janelle used this phrase to describe two people who share the same agenda of control, the same methods of psychological warfare, and the same complete lack of empathy for the damage they cause. They're not equally yoked in righteousness, they're equally yoked in toxicity. Think about what we've watched unfold over the years. Every single family crisis, every breakdown in relationships, every moment when the other wives felt isolated and confused. Now we know why. It wasn't just Kody being difficult. It wasn't just Robin being needy. It was two master manipulators working together, consciously or unconsciously, to maintain control over everyone in their orbit. Janelle's friend Angela tried to defend Robin, saying she's just blind to Kody's faults, that she doesn't see the negative in him. But Janelle shut that down immediately. She's just as much as he is, she said. They feed each other's ego. That's not blindness, that's partnership. That's two people who recognize something in each other and decide to use it to their advantage. The most chilling part, Janelle explained how this dynamic works. Sometimes you get power by giving power, she revealed. Robin plays helpless, positions herself as the victim who needs constant rescue, and Kody gets to be the hero riding in on his white horse. But here's the twist that makes it so sinister. Robin isn't actually powerless. She's orchestrating the whole thing, pulling the strings while making it look like she's the one being controlled. This revelation changes everything we thought we knew about their relationship. Robin isn't just Kody's favorite wife who got lucky. She's his co-conspirator, his partner in psychological crime, the person who figured out exactly how to manipulate the manipulator. And now that we understand they're equally yoked in their toxicity, every single thing that happened to Christine, Janelle, and Mary makes perfect sense. But this is just the beginning of how deep their manipulation web really goes. Christine Brown's book Revelation about the massage confrontation wasn't just embarrassing family drama, it was a smoking gun that exposed Robin as Kody's enforcer, using tactics that mirror some of the darkest psychological manipulation patterns known to experts. When Robin approached Christine asking why she wasn't giving Kody massages anymore, she wasn't being a concerned sister wife, she was doing Kody's dirty work, and the parallels to trafficking dynamics are absolutely chilling. Christine realized immediately that anything she told Robin would go straight back to Kody, probably with a twisted spin added for maximum damage. But here's what makes this so much worse than typical gossip. Robin was confronting Christine about intimate details of her marriage, things that should have stayed private between husband and wife. The fact that Kody was discussing his sex life with other wives to Robin shows just how deep their partnership in manipulation really goes. The massage demand itself reveals something disturbing about their power structure. Christine had stopped giving Kody massages because, as she put it, he doesn't give back. But instead of Kody addressing this directly with his wife, he sent Robin to pressure her into compliance. Think about that dynamic. A woman being pressured by another woman to perform physical services for a man who isn't meeting her needs. Sound familiar? This is exactly how trafficking operations work. There's always a woman in the hierarchy who helps recruit and control other women, someone who's gained power within the system by doing the trafficker's bidding. She gets special treatment, better living conditions, more access to the person in charge. In return, she helps maintain control over the other victims, keeping them in line through pressure, guilt, and manipulation. Robin's role in the Brown family follows this pattern perfectly. She gets the best house, the most time with Kody, the most financial security, her children are treated better, her needs are prioritized, her wishes become family law. But in exchange, she serves as Kody's lieutenant, handling the psychological warfare he can't do directly without completely exposing himself. The massage confrontation shows how this system operates in practice. When one of the wives steps out of line, when someone stops providing what Kody feels entitled to, Robin swoops in to apply pressure. She doesn't use direct threats, she uses guilt, comparison, and emotional manipulation. "He's such a great husband," she told Christine, implying that any problems in their marriage must be Christine's fault. This kind of psychological pressure is devastating because it comes from someone who's supposed to be your ally, your sister, in the same situation. But Robin isn't Christine's ally. She's Kody's weapon, deployed strategically to maintain control over women who might be starting to question the system. The most disturbing part, Robin probably doesn't even see herself as complicit. She's convinced herself that she's helping, that she's protecting Kody, that she's holding the family together. But that's exactly how these systems work. The enforcers are often victims too, trapped in cycles where their survival depends on helping their abuser maintain control over others. And this was just the beginning of Robin's manipulation playbook. The psychology term triangulation sounds academic, but when you see it in action within the Brown family dynamic, it becomes a weapon of mass destruction for relationships. Janelle's analysis of Robin's behavior reveals a textbook case of how manipulators use triangulation to maintain control, destroy competing relationships, and position themselves as the center of everyone's universe. Here's how Robin's triangulation works in practice. She positions herself as the perpetual victim of everyone else's bad behavior. Christine is mean to her. Janelle doesn't include her. The older kids reject her children. Mary doesn't support her. According to Robin's narrative, she's constantly under attack from these villainous family members who are trying to destroy her peaceful relationship with Kody. But here's the sinister part. Robin doesn't fight these battles herself. Instead, she runs to Kody with carefully crafted stories about how she's being mistreated, how she's being targeted, how she needs protection from these terrible people who are supposedly trying to hurt her and her children. She triggers every protective instinct Kody has, making him feel like her knight in shining armor while painting everyone else as the enemy. This creates a triangle between Robin, Kody, and whoever she's targeting at the moment. Instead of dealing with conflicts directly, Robin pulls Kody into the middle of every relationship dispute. She makes him choose sides, and guess who he always chooses? The supposed victim who makes him feel powerful and needed, not the independent women who challenge him or expect equal treatment. The brilliance of this manipulation is that Robin never has to take responsibility for anything. When relationships explode, when family members get hurt, when children stop speaking to their father, Robin can claim complete innocence. She's just the poor victim who is being attacked. She never asked Kody to defend her so aggressively. She had no idea her complaints would lead to such dramatic consequences. Meanwhile, Kody becomes the enforcer of Robin's will without even realizing it. He thinks he's protecting his beloved wife from bullies and troublemakers. He doesn't see that he's being manipulated into destroying his relationships with his other wives and children. Every time he chooses Robin's version of events over direct communication with the people involved, he's allowing himself to be triangulated into family destruction. This pattern explains so many of the family breakdowns we've witnessed. Why did Kody suddenly turn against Christine when she expressed unhappiness? Because Robin was whispering in his ear about how Christine's complaints were really attacks on their marriage. Why did his relationships with the older children deteriorate? Because Robin convinced him they were disrespectful to her authority and threatening to her children's security. The most devastating part of triangulation is that it makes honest communication impossible. Instead of family members talking directly to each other about problems, everything gets filtered through Robin's manipulation and Kody's defensive reactions. Truth gets twisted, contexts get lost, and genuine concerns get reframed as personal attacks. This psychological warfare doesn't just damage individual relationships, it systematically destroys the entire family structure by making trust impossible. Kody Brown has always fancied himself the patriarch, the protector, the man who swoops in to save the day. But Robin didn't just recognize this hero complex, she weaponized it. What Janelle observed about Robin's manipulation strategy reveals one of the most calculated psychological games in the book, and it explains why Kody consistently chose Robin's needs over everyone else's, even when it meant destroying his relationships with his other wives and children. Robin discovered early in their relationship that Kody has an insatiable need to feel needed. He craves the role of rescuer, the man who solves problems and protects the vulnerable. Most healthy relationships would either satisfy this need appropriately or help someone grow beyond it. But Robin saw an opportunity and decided to exploit it for maximum personal gain. Here's how her strategy works. Robin presents herself as perpetually fragile, constantly under threat, always needing Kody's intervention to protect her from the big bad world. She doesn't just ask for help. She creates scenarios where Kody feels like her salvation depends entirely on him. The other wives want to hurt her. The older children are mean to her babies. The family dynamics are too overwhelming for her sensitive nature. Only Kody can make it better. This manipulation is so effective because it makes Kody feel powerful while actually making him completely powerless. He thinks he's in control, making decisions actions to protect his beloved wife, but really, he's dancing to Robin's tune, reacting to problems she's either created or dramatically exaggerated. She pulls the strings while he believes he's the one driving the action. The psychological term for this is learned helplessness, but Robin's version is anything but helpless. She's strategically helpless, performing vulnerability to trigger Kody's protective instincts. When she cries about feeling excluded, Kody attacks the other wives for not including her enough. When she worries about her children's safety, Kody implements rules that isolate everyone else's kids. When she feels overwhelmed by family dynamics, Kody restructures everything to accommodate her comfort. The genius of this manipulation is that it makes Robin appear blameless while giving her absolute control. She never has to make demands directly. She just has to express fear or sadness about a situation, and Kody automatically transforms into her knight in shining armor, ready to battle whoever or whatever is causing his princess distress. This dynamic explains why Kody's behavior became so erratic and cruel toward his other family members. Every time Christine expressed unhappiness, every time Janelle questioned decisions, every time the older kids showed independence, Robin found ways to frame these normal behaviors as threats to her well-being. And Kody, trapped in his hero complex, felt compelled to eliminate these threats to protect his damsel in distress. The most insidious part? Robin probably convinced herself that she really is the victim in these scenarios, that her manipulation is just self-protection. But this victim act was just one layer of a much deeper psychological game. The most chilling aspect of Robin's manipulation isn't her aggression, it's her carefully crafted helplessness. What looks like weakness on the surface is actually the most sophisticated power grab in the Brown family playbook, and it's been hiding in plain sight for years. Robin discovered that in Kody's world, the person who appears most vulnerable gets the most protection, the most resources, and ultimately the most control. This strategy is diabolically brilliant because it's almost impossible to call out without looking like you're attacking someone who appears defenseless. How do you confront someone who's always crying, always overwhelmed, always just trying her best in impossible circumstances? Robin has positioned herself as untouchable by weaponizing victimhood, and anyone who challenges her becomes the bully picking on the innocent woman just trying to survive. Look at how this played out during family conflicts. While Christine, Janelle, and Mary were expected to handle problems independently, to be strong and self-sufficient, Robin got to be perpetually overwhelmed by the same situations. Moving houses, too stressful for Robin. Financial decisions, too complicated for her to understand. Disciplining children, every challenge that other family members were expected to handle became an opportunity for Robin to need rescue. But here's where it gets truly manipulative. Robin's helplessness is selective and strategic. She's helpless when it benefits her, competent when she needs to be. She can't handle confrontation with the other wives, but she's perfectly capable of confronting Christine about massage duties. She's too overwhelmed to make family decisions, but she has very clear opinions about what those decisions should be. She's too fragile for criticism, but she can dish out judgment disguised as concern. This selective helplessness creates a double standard that destroys family dynamics. The other wives are held to standards of strength and independence, while Robin gets special accommodations for her supposed fragility. When Christine struggled with polygamy, she was told to work harder. When Robin struggled, the entire family structure was rearranged to make her more comfortable. The psychological impact of this strategy extends far beyond just getting preferential treatment. By positioning herself as the most vulnerable family member, Robin makes everyone else feel guilty for their own needs and feelings. How can you complain about your problems when Robin is clearly suffering more? How can you ask for attention when she obviously needs it more desperately? How can you express anger when she's already so hurt and fragile? This manipulation tactic is particularly devastating because it perverts natural human compassion. People want to help those who seem to be struggling, to protect those who appear vulnerable. Robin exploits this instinct, turning empathy into a weapon that keeps everyone focused on her needs while ignoring their own legitimate concerns. The most disturbing aspect of this power through helplessness strategy is how it trained the entire family to enable her control while believing they were being kind and protective. And this manipulation becomes even more sinister when you realize who else uses these exact same tactics. When two master manipulators find each other, the result isn't love. It's a psychological arms race that destroys everything in its path. Robin and Kody's relationship represents one of the most toxic dynamics possible. Two narcissists who feed off each other's worst traits while convincing themselves they've found their perfect match. And just like other notorious narcissistic couples, their partnership relationship is built on mutual exploitation disguised as devotion. The comparison to other celebrity power couples is striking and disturbing. Think about the dynamics we've witnessed with couples like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, where every interaction seems calculated for maximum impact, where love becomes performance, where each person uses the other to amplify their own image. Robin and Kody operate the same way, just in a different arena. They don't compete for tabloid attention, they compete for family control. Here's how their narcissistic partnership functions. Both Robin and Kody need constant validation, but they get it from different sources. Kody needs to feel powerful, important, like the patriarch whose word is law. Robin needs to feel special, protected, like the chosen woman whose needs matter most. Instead of competing for the same validation, they've created a system where they provide each other's narcissistic supply while working together to extract it from everyone else. Robin validates Kody's delusions of grandeur by treating him like her savior, her protector, the only man who truly understands her delicate nature. She makes him feel powerful by appearing powerless, important by seeming dependent, wise by acting confused. In return, Kody validates Robin's sense of specialness by prioritizing her needs over everyone else's, by treating her as more fragile and therefore more deserving of protection and resources. But here's where it gets truly twisted. Neither of them actually respects the other. Kody doesn't respect Robin's supposed helplessness. He enables it because it makes him feel superior. Robin doesn't respect Kody's leadership. She manipulates it because it gives her control. They're both using each other while convincing themselves they're the victim in the relationship. This dynamic explains why their relationship seems so intense and exclusive. It's not because they have some deep spiritual connection, it's because they've created a closed loop of mutual manipulation that requires constant maintenance. They can't include others meaningfully because their entire system depends on being each other's primary source of validation. The most dangerous aspect of narcissistic couples is their ability to escalate each other's worst behaviors. When Robin plays victim, Kody doesn't just comfort her, he becomes more aggressive toward whoever supposedly hurt her. When Kody makes unreasonable demands, Robin doesn't just comply, she finds ways to make the demands seem reasonable while demonizing anyone who resists. This escalation pattern explains why family relationships deteriorated so dramatically during their marriage. Each fed the other's sense of righteousness while amplifying their persecution complex. But narcissistic partnerships have a fatal flaw that makes them inherently unstable. Sometimes the most telling details about someone's character come from the strangest places. When those disgusting wrestling mats showed up again in Robin and Kody's new home, it wasn't just a quirky family moment, it was a perfect metaphor for everything wrong with Kody's priorities and Robin's enabling of his most selfish behaviors. The fact that Robin tolerates these revolting relics while the family fell apart around them reveals just how twisted their value system really is. Let's talk about what these wrestling mats represent. They're filthy, smelly remnants from a high school that was literally throwing them away because they were too gross to use. Normal people would see discarded gym equipment and think trash. But Kody saw an opportunity to feed his ego about his wrestling past, and Robin saw an opportunity to let him have whatever he wanted while she played the long-suffering wife who puts up with his nonsense. The mats themselves are disgusting. They smell like vinegar and boy's armpit, according to Robin's own description. They turn any space they occupy into an assault on human senses. They serve no practical purpose in their current life, but Kody insists on keeping them, moving them from storage unit to storage unit, because they make him feel connected to his glory days when he was young and athletic and the center of attention. Robin's reaction to these mats is incredibly telling. She complains about them, calls them gross, admits they ruin any room they're placed in, but she doesn't actually stop him from keeping them. She doesn't put her foot down about having to live with literal garbage that makes their home smell like a locker room. Instead, she enables his selfishness while positioning herself as the victim of his inconsiderate behavior. This pattern reveals everything about their relationship dynamic. Kody gets to keep his toys, his memories, his ego-boosting possessions, regardless of how they impact anyone else. Robin gets to complain about being the victim of his inconsiderate choices while never actually challenging them. She plays the role of the long-suffering wife while enabling the exact behaviors she claims to find frustrating. The wrestling mat situation is a microcosm of how Kody operated throughout the family's existence. His wants and needs and nostalgic attachments always took priority over practical concerns, over other people's comfort, over basic hygiene and decency. And Robin, despite being in the best position to influence his decisions, chose to enable this selfishness because it served her larger manipulation strategy. Think about what else got prioritized over family well-being. Kody's wrestling mats got moved from house to house, but his relationships with his children got discarded without a second thought. His need to feel like a tough guy got accommodated with disgusting gym equipment, but his wife's needs for respect and consideration got ignored completely. The mats also represent Kody's inability to let go of the past, his desperate clinging to a time when he felt important and admired. But nowhere was this twisted priority system more obvious than in the final Coyote Pass showdown. The Coyote Pass property sale wasn't just about real estate. It was the final battlefield where Robin and Kody's manipulation tactics got exposed in their rawest, most desperate form. When money and legal documents were on the line, all the psychological games that had worked for years in family settings suddenly became transparent, and their true colors showed in ways that should terrify anyone who's been watching this family dysfunction unfold. The property dispute revealed Robin and Kody's panic when they couldn't control the narrative or manipulate the other parties into compliance. For years, they'd been able to use emotional manipulation, guilt trips, and psychological warfare to get their way within the family structure. But legal proceedings don't care about hurt feelings or victim narratives. Courts want documentation, fair division, and legitimate signatures. Suddenly, their usual tactics were useless. Watch how quickly their behavior escalated when faced with actual accountability. Kody admitted to considering a backdoor deal with Janelle to sell the property out from under Mary and Christine. Think about that level of betrayal. He was willing to financially destroy two women he'd been married to for decades, women who'd borne his children and sacrificed their lives for his dreams, just to maintain control and avoid having to treat them fairly. Robin's role in this scheme is equally revealing. She initially supported the underhanded approach, showing her true character when she thought nobody was watching. Only when the moral implications became too obvious did she suddenly develop a conscience and tell Kody to do the right thing. But that wasn't morality, that was calculated damage control when she realized the optics were terrible. The confidentiality agreement demand was perhaps the most telling part of their desperation. Why would you need to silence someone unless you're afraid of what they might reveal? What were Robin and Kody so terrified that Mary might say about their behavior, their financial dealings, or their manipulation tactics? The fact that they wanted legal documents preventing Mary from speaking about the property transaction shows they knew their behavior couldn't stand up to scrutiny. Mary's refusal to sign that silencing agreement was the moment their control finally crumbled. For once, someone refused to be intimidated by their legal maneuvering and psychological pressure. Mary stood her ground, demanded fair treatment, and forced them to complete the transaction honestly instead of through manipulation and coercion. The weather during their final meeting was almost poetic justice. Cold, miserable, with storms threatening, everyone sitting in separate cars, refusing to interact. It perfectly captured the emotional wasteland their family had become after years of Robin and Kody's toxic partnership. No warmth, no connection, just people protecting themselves from further damage. The Coyote Pass sale represented the death of every dream and manipulation they'd used to control the family narrative. But their attempts to silence the truth through legal intimidation revealed just how afraid they are of full exposure. The confidentiality agreement that Robin and Kody tried to force Mary to sign wasn't just legal paperwork, it was a smoking gun that exposed their deepest fears about what the public might learn if someone with inside knowledge ever decided to tell the whole truth. The fact that they wanted to legally silence Mary reveals a level of desperation that should make everyone wonder what exactly they're so terrified of people discovering. Think about the implications of demanding someone sign away their right to speak about a property transaction. In normal business deals, confidentiality agreements protect trade secrets or sensitive financial information. But this was family land, purchased and owned together for years. What could Mary possibly know about their dealings that would require legal silencing unless there was something seriously questionable about their behavior? The timing of this demand makes it even more suspicious. After months of Robin and Kody controlling the narrative through their platform, after years of painting themselves as the victims of family dysfunction, suddenly they're panicked about one person having the legal right to share her perspective. They'd been perfectly comfortable with public speculation and media coverage when they controlled the story, but the thought of Mary speaking freely sent them into legal overdrive. Mary's refusal to sign that agreement was the moment their house of cards started crumbling. For once, someone called their bluff and refused to be intimidated into silence. Mary recognized that signing away her right to speak was essentially admitting guilt for whatever they were trying to hide. She stood her ground and forced them to complete the transaction fairly, without the protection of legal gag orders. The desperation in their response to Mary's resistance revealed everything about their mindset. Kody admitted to considering forcing the sale without Mary's consent, essentially stealing her share of the property to maintain control. Robin initially supported this theft, showing her true character when she thought nobody was watching. Only when the moral implications became impossible to ignore did she suddenly develop a conscience. But here's what makes their silencing attempt even more chilling. They weren't just trying to protect themselves from embarrassment or family drama. They were trying to prevent Mary from revealing information that could potentially expose financial irregularities, manipulation tactics, or other behaviors that might have legal consequences. People don't demand confidentiality agreements unless they're hiding something serious. The fact that they ultimately had to complete the sale without their silencing agreement means Mary retains the right to speak about whatever she witnessed during their years together. That's a ticking time bomb for Robin and Kody, because someone with intimate knowledge of their behavior patterns, their financial dealings, and their manipulation tactics now has the legal freedom to share that information whenever she chooses. Their failed attempt to silence Mary represents more than just legal maneuvering. It's proof that they know their behavior can't withstand scrutiny. But this desperation to control the narrative hints at an even bigger problem lurking in their future. The most chilling truth about Robin and Kody's toxic partnership is that it's doomed to self-destruct. And when it does, the psychological carnage will make their current family dysfunction look like a minor disagreement. Two narcissists can only sustain their manipulative dance for so long before their competing egos and insatiable need for control turn them against each other in ways that will shock even those who've watched their toxic behavior for years. Here's the psychological reality that Robin and Kody don't understand about their relationship. They think they've found their perfect match, someone who finally gets them and supports their worldview. But what they've actually created is a ticking time bomb. Both narcissists require constant validation and control, and eventually those needs will conflict in ways that their current manipulation tactics can't resolve. Right now, their system works because they're extracting narcissistic supply from external sources: the other wives, the children, the family structure, the public attention. But as those external sources disappear, as the family completely dissolves and public interest wanes, they'll be left with only each other to provide the validation they desperately crave. That's when the real psychological warfare begins. Narcissists can't truly love or respect anyone, including other narcissists. Robin doesn't actually admire Kody's leadership. She tolerates it because it serves her manipulation strategy. Kody doesn't actually cherish Robin's sensitivity, he exploits it because it makes him feel powerful. When external pressures force them to depend solely on each other, these underlying truths will surface with devastating force. The signs of impending implosion are already visible if you know what to look for. Robin's increasing control over Kody's decisions, her isolation of him from his children, her demand that everything revolve around her comfort. These aren't signs of a loving wife protecting her marriage. They're signs of a narcissist who's realized she can completely dominate her partner and is pushing to see how far that control extends. Meanwhile, Kody's growing resentment toward anyone who challenges their narrative, his increasing aggression toward his other family members, his willingness to abandon his children for Robin's approval. These aren't signs of a devoted husband. They're signs of someone whose ego is so fragile that he'll destroy every other relationship to maintain the one that makes him feel most powerful. But here's what happens when two people who manipulate everyone eventually run out of external victims. They start manipulating each other more aggressively. Robin's victim act will stop working when Kody realizes she's been playing him. Kody's hero complex will shatter when Robin's demands become impossible to fulfill. The psychological games that destroyed their family relationships will turn inward with twice the intensity. The most tragic part: their children will bear the brunt of this inevitable implosion, watching their parents destroy each other with the same toxic tactics they used to destroy every other family relationship. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.